Hello, everyone. I'm Melanie. I guide souls and heal hearts. And this is my heart to heart interview series. And I'm really excited to be having a heart to heart with Lisa Campion today. Lisa is a psychic counselor, a Reiki master teacher with over 25 years of experience. She has been teaching Reiki for over 20 years and specializes in training emerging psychics, empaths, and healers so that they can fully step into their gifts since the world needs a lot of healers today. Well, that certainly is true. And Lisa is also the author of The Art of Psychic Reiki. Welcome, Lisa. Thank you for taking your time to do this with me.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Melanie. I'm delighted to be here having a heart to heart.
Good, and I'm interested because I'm also a Reiki master. I learned the traditional Reiki Usai system, and I know that now there's so many different types of Reiki. I did one or two, but then I just never felt drawn to doing any more different types of Reiki. I felt that the traditional was enough for me. So I'm curious to find out more about psychic Reiki. Um, Obviously, I know from my own experience of doing Reiki, and Reiki for me has been very gentle. Actually, Reiki was the one thing that woke me up on my path. So it's nice
Yeah,
to have this heart to heart with you about Reiki. It's a gentle technique that originated in Japan, but maybe can you tell us a little bit more from your experience and your perspective, and um, yeah, just share a little bit about how you came to Reiki and a little more.
sure. Yeah, I sure will. So, like you said, Reiki's a gentle, powerful energy healing technique from Japan that really anyone can use. And the reason that I love it so much, I think it's kind of a miracle, actually. And the reason that I love it is as what you said, that you came to your awakening through Reiki, and so many people do. I think it's Reiki, yoga, meditation, that these are sort of the gateways or the doorways that people come into a lot of times into their spiritual awakening through those things. Um, and I feel like Reiki in particular tends to when you study Reiki, tends to really open people's psychic gifts. So if you're intuitive, if you're empathic, if you're psychic, and studying Reiki is going to make that bigger. It's going to open you profoundly to those things. And so I don't think this, the style of Reiki that I teach is fairly traditional. It's not straight, pure, Usui Reiki. It's sort of typical of what we do here in the Western style Reiki. But what's different about the way that I teach it is that I incorporate this training, this sense. So if you're with Reiki level 1, because Reiki has 3 levels, and with Reiki level 1, I teach energy management techniques for empaths and sensitives, because we need to learn how to manage our energy, how to ground, how to clear, how to protect ourselves. With Reiki 2, I teach more psychic stuff because some of the symbols that we learn in Reiki 2 really open the pineal gland. They increase our capacity for psychic experiences a lot. And what I was noticing in all the years that I was teaching Reiki is that it opened people, but if they didn't get the right training, that could be upsetting or scary for them. They don't know what to do when you're open so much. And I've seen people actually back away from Reiki because they felt overwhelmed by the psychic and intuitive things they were getting.
That's so interesting. That just reminded me. I've had a few clients, because I teach Reiki obviously as well, similar things where they were kind of left and they kind of withdrew and
Yep.
didn't know what to do. So then they wanted to start again. Can you just share, before we get into like that stuff, can you just share how did you become a professional psychic? When did you know that you were even psychic or had these gifts?
Well, I really was as a child, which it was unusual I grew up in the 60s and 70s right outside Boston here in the United States. And it was very uncommonly talked about. Like, people didn't talk about it. Like nowadays we have psychics on TV, we have New Age bookstores, but back then, we didn't. And I knew that I had to be quiet about it, but I was a child that always saw things other people didn't see. Could see spirits and ghosts. I could see energy around people.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And that was it was very, I think at the time for the time that I was born, my gifts were quite extreme. I don't think so now anymore. Like I see kids these days, teenagers, young people come in with gifts stronger, as strong as that and stronger all the time. But I think for the day, I was sort of a forerunner of having that that kind of, and I spent really the first 20 years of my life trying to figure out how to turn it off, what to do, how to turn it off, how to just be, you know, a person normal. And how to be normal, exactly. And how to function. And I had to learn it all really the hard way, because there weren't a lot of people teaching or talking about it. Never heard the word empath, you know, like it was, so I learned all of this myself. And so I started actually working as a psychic when I was 19. And I don't know why I did. I just decided that's what I was going to do. And I don't know, you do what you think, you know, you try things at 19. And so I started doing it. And then I learned counseling and psychology because I wanted to further help people. Like I was delivering a message, and then I wanted to help them be able to process what they were learning. So I studied counseling and psychology. And then about 20, and then so I could support whatever was coming up in the read. Like at 19, like you tell somebody something, they would cry, and I'd be like, well, now what do I do? Like I didn't know what to do at that point. So, so that, you know, that was really interesting, really understanding how to sort of do counseling as a healing modality. And then about 20 years ago, I discovered Reiki, because I was starting to see things happen inside people's bodies. I was getting like medical intuitive information. I was seeing more of what was happening in the energy field. And I wanted a way to kind of get in there and help heal on that level. So I studied Reiki and then I've been teaching Reiki. And now when I work with people, I integrate all of those things into one, because I think as a psychic, my orientation is to look at people at the level of the soul. Who are you as a soul? You know, what's your soul journey? Like what's the narrative, you know, and story of your soul? Where have you been in the past? So I see past lives. What's your purpose? What's awesome about you? What gifts are you trying to express here in the world? Maybe where you're stuck or blocked. I like to look at people's contracts. Like, why are you with the people that you're with? What is the contracts there? Where are you going in the future? All of these things are what interest me as a psychic. And so when I'm working at the soul level, finding a way we have to deal with the person's emotions, their thoughts, their body, their energy field, the soul energy, and all. I've just found this way to connect all of the things that I have studied to help people at that deeper level.
Beautiful. And I think that is so important, because some of these, like for example, counseling, and then you have energy healing, they're so separate. And I think that, well, in the future, it's because when you get stuck or when you have a trauma or anything, it affects all the levels.
Right.
So I think it's so important. I work very much like you as well, the way that you're describing, eclectic. Yeah. I've studied, you know, NLP and mind sort of techniques, but I do a lot of counseling and like emotional stuff. I do Reiki. So I combine everything. And I think that is whole, you know, it's, you work on all the levels. So is this why you call it psychic Reiki, or what is it different psychic Reiki?
You know, it's not really. I mean, the initial title of my book was Reiki for Psychics and Empaths. You know, that's the name that the title that I had. But of course, when you publish a book, the publisher picks the title. You don't have any control over there. They're like, the book is called The Art of Psychic Reiki. Here it is, by the way. It looks good, right?
Nice. Yeah, it does look
nice,
good.
It's a nice looking book. And they do everything that publisher picked the title, and I think it is good. A good title. So I don't think that I really invented psychic Reiki. I just think I blended rather regular Reiki, traditional Reiki, with psychic development and energy management techniques for people, because I see that the people that come to work with me are always the same type of person, the healer, the empath, the sensitive, the psychic. And I think all of those gifts for many people, those gifts come together as the package of healer. You know, like those are the tools and gifts we need when we're healers. And it's a huge advantage to be an empath, to be intuitive, to be psychic. I think those gifts are for something, and for a lot of people, they're for healing.
Yeah.
They're to be a better healer. And, you know, I'm sure you found this, the more you've been able to access those gifts, the better healer you've become. I'm sure that's right. Yeah. So really that's what my book is about. And there really isn't any other book, or there are very few people combining those things, talking about, like, you can have psychic development and you can have Reiki, but there isn't really much except for my work and my book that's bringing them together, because like I said, I did feel like it was a missing piece for a lot of Reiki people.
Yeah, correct. And also that reminds me, when I teach Reiki, I have looked and purchased many Reiki books, and you're right, it doesn't talk about all the psychic stuff and how to develop that. In fact, I never even recommended specific Reiki books because it didn't help them, other than what I was teaching them, the symbols and the system. Right. I actually recommended other books, like Barbara, the Hands of Light.
Hands of Light. Yeah.
Barbara
Brennan.
Barbara Brennan. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And other books, because they needed those tools, and there wasn't any substance in terms of the other stuff that you're talking about, and in the normal Usai Reiki tradition. Not to put them down or anything, because I trained in that in the Usai system as well. So is there any other reason why you teach them together, or is just because you felt it was whole and complete? Yeah,
because it was whole and complete, and because it's what people needed, what was, like I said, what was missing. And I feel like it's an incredible opportunity to help people be the best healers they can be if they're able to fully develop that side of themselves. And also I feel very like it's such a sweet spot for the empaths of the world, because I've had to deal with my own sensitivity, and it's really hard if you think you're so this was sort of the story that launched me on my book, is that I worked with this Reiki, she was a Reiki student of mine, a very talented healer, wonderful person, and she studied hospice work, and she was working in the hospice, which I feel is so, I respect so deeply. It's such powerful work, and it's such important work, and she's a brilliant healer. She's just like really good. And she called me one day and she said, I love doing this, but I think I'm gonna have to stop. Like I can't handle it. I work on a case, and then I come back and I'm just wrecked for like a week. I'm on the couch. I've blown my adrenal glands. I have fibromyalgia. I can't get off the couch. My husband's mad at me. My kids are like, where are you, Mom? And she's like, I'm gonna have to quit. I'm gonna have to quit doing the healing work because I just can't handle it. And I was like, no, like that's not okay that this incredibly talented healer stopped working, because she just needed to learn how to manage her energy. And it's so intense doing hospice work. She's right in the line of fire. She's picking up all of this, super intense, heavy emotion that's going on, absorbing it all into her system. And she doesn't know how to clear. She doesn't know how to ground herself. She doesn't know how to manage her energy. So I spent a couple of months working with her, really teaching her the basics of energy management. And it works. Like, she got off the couch. She was feeling better. She, learned how to practice these things on a daily basis, and then went back to work. And that's where I was like, okay, like this is something that is so common for Reiki people or healers in general, and I'm sure it's the same for you. Like, I'm sure you've had to learn how to take care of yourself, or you can't keep doing your job.
Absolutely. I had major breakdowns, especially after, I think, the first 2 years. I was also, at that time, I was practicing Reiki, and I started off my career as a massage therapist. Picked up everything, and after 2 years I was like, there's no way I'm continuing,
right?
Because I was just always tired and drained and
sick, and I know. And every empath, I mean, so if we go with the theory, which I think is right, that all empaths are meant to be healers, and really drawn into the world of helping, healing, caregiving, there's this horrible catch-22 that happens where we're drawn to do this work, and we can't do it until we learn how to manage our energy. And I just think how many other empaths are lying on the couch. I think that this brings a kind of spiritual depression to healers and empaths, because if we can't fulfill our purpose, if we can't get out and do the work that we need to do, it's like, why are we even here? It creates spiritual depression in people.
It does. And now like you mentioning that, it's made me remember, like, I was resenting this path.
Yeah.
Like, how can I, you know, the resent is the word that came to me. I was really resenting continuing on this path. But before we go on, can you just make a distinction between what is intuition, what is psychic, and what's the difference? And maybe a little bit, we talked a little bit about empaths, so you know, people out there can.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a great question, and I do make a distinction. So, empath is like really like we're the psychic sponges. So we're the super sensitive people that just seem to absorb other people's energy, and usually we do it in two ways. So we absorb the physical energy, and like you, when you were a massage therapist, you put your hands on people, you would feel in your body what they're feeling in their body.
Yeah,
which would make you
how I discovered my gifts.
Yeah, and it would make you an excellent massage therapist, because your people would be like, oh my God, how do you know exactly where to put your hands like that? You know, and then the other thing empaths do is absorb the emotional energy. So, and it's not just like noticing someone's having an emotion, it's like feeling it as if it's your feeling, and it's very confusing. So you could put your hands on people, on somebody when you were doing massage, and be like, all of a sudden your back is, you know, aching, and you're gonna cry. You're like, I don't know why I'm so sad. You know, and it's really what your person is feeling, you know. And until you know that, it's like what you said is so true, like feeling resentful. I think empaths feel like untrained empaths feel like this is a curse, and they want to give it back. They want to give that gift and be like, take it away, make it go away, you know. So so that's really empaths. And then intuition, I make a distinction between psychic and intuition, because intuition is like our inner knowing. It's our inner wisdom, ours, you know. So maybe our body wisdoms, I feel like our body is very wise. And when we're grounded in our body always knows what's right and what's true, right? And we feel then our emotions. So I have a good feeling or a bad feeling about something. And if you know anything about chakras, that your intuition is the lower three chakras.
Yeah.
First chakra is your body. The second chakra is your actual emotions. And the third chakra is like your gut knowing, your when we say the gut, and it is right in the gut. I don't know why I know, I just know. Like I knew that was going to happen.
Yeah.
And those three things together are your intuition. And it's information from inside your own system, your inner guidance, right? Psychic is information from outside your system. So psychic information is more like when we get into talking to spirit guides, your angels or God, or you know, your whatever your guides are, whoever these spirit beings that help all of us. Our psychic ability is the ability to connect with this information that's outside of our own system and bring it in. And I would say that most people that I teach have all three of these gifts, you know. So all empaths certainly have strong intuition and are psychic. I have met some psychics that aren't empathic, but it's kind of rare, you know. So yeah, I think does that make sense, those differences?
I think that's a really good distinction.
Yeah.
Very clear. And so what are some steps that so we all have our inner intuition, our body's intuition, inner knowing. What are some steps that people can develop their psychic abilities? Do you have any quick tips?
Yeah, I do. So there's a couple things you can do, and I think the first thing is to really pay attention, you know. And I recommend something like creating a journal that you write everything down, because, you know, as whatever we pay attention to gets stronger. So we need to notice, we need to pay attention. And then especially with intuition, the biggest mistake that I see people make is not, they might pay attention, but they don't act on it. And I don't think that we need to act on every strange little whim that we have, but more often than not, we need to honor our intuition by acting on it, by taking it seriously, by listening to it. And if we pay attention and act on it, it's like a muscle, you know, it kind of builds, you know, it builds up. And I think also that those are the things we have to do for intuition. Now for psychic, it's more like, it takes a little bit more work to practice to really strengthen our psychic. So I think it's good to meditate. Meditation is a very good way to develop, to have some kind of spiritual practice, I think is essential. Whatever, if it's yoga or if it's meditation or Tai Chi, those that spiritual practice opens the 6th and 7th chakra, these upper chakras that help us download information.
Yeah.
And I think I really like divination tools. So runes, cards, pendulum. I like the tarot because I've been, familiar and comfortable with the tarot for forever, since I was in my 20s. But it doesn't matter. There's a million different kinds of divination tools. And so I really like, like if you get a hit, if you get something, you write it down in your journal, so you're paying attention. And then if you want to confirm or deny, you use your divination tool, even a pendulum, yes or no, like was that a hit? Was it me? Like pendulums are very useful for beginner psychics who want to confirm whether what they're getting, and that's really good. So that's kind of and then we are practicing a lot. You have to spend some time, I think. Like if you wanted to get in shape, you would go to the gym, right? But you wouldn't go just once. You would go every other day, and then 3 months later you'd feel different. It's kind of, I think, like that.
Yeah, no, it's correct. You have to practice and, like you said, pay attention. And I like the idea of keeping like a little psychic journal.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because then you can go back and see where actually you were right, and you did pick up that information.
Yes.
And that also, I feel, when you go back and look at it, I actually did this, by the way. It increases your confidence in yourself.
Exactly. Yeah, and you can put, like, if you pull cards, you put them in your journal. If you have a dream, if you dream, and you feel like it's a significant dream, you put that in the journal. If you, suddenly out of the blue think of something that seems like a psychic, if the phone rings and you know who it is before you pick it up, put it in your journal. Like all of this, put it in there, and you'll be amazed how psychic you really are already, I think.
Awesome. So you talk a lot about empaths in your book, and I know we've discussed a little bit about empaths just briefly. Why do they need extra help? I mean, we discussed a little bit. Is there any other, anything else that you feel?
Yeah, I think they really do. And I would say get very specific tools around this energy management. So really understanding how to ground yourself, and grounding just means being in your body in this moment in time, so being present and being in your body, being connected to the earth. And empaths have a tendency to be ungrounded. Like when we get energetically and emotionally overwhelmed, we sort of leave, we leave. And it's worse, of course, if you've had any trauma in your life, which empaths often seem to be trauma magnets and have extra trauma. So it's important, I think, to work on that stuff, to clear your own issues out of your system, to work through your trauma, but also to have a daily practice of grounding. Maybe you walk the dog, your dog.
You're saying this because I say this all the time: ground.
And we have to practice because it's not our natural state, so in order to change that, we have to really concentrate on it and find something. Maybe you have crystals in your pocket. Maybe you do. I do teach my students a breathing guided meditation because I like that. You can do it anywhere. Maybe you spend time alone. Empaths need often a lot of solitary time. They tend to be introverted, and maybe out in nature, like by yourself, just, so we need that. We also need to learn how to clear our energy system when we get overwhelmed, when we pick up energy from other people and we get sort of flooded with that. We have to learn how to release that. If an empath is a psychic sponge, what do you do when the sponge is full? You have to wring that sponge out, and that's the clearing, And again, it can be, I do grounding and clearing in the same thing by using a guided meditation where you breathe light in the top of your head, fill your whole self with light, and on the exhale breath, you release it down the grounding cord like you're flushing,
Nice. Yeah.
And it's an intention and breath meditation. But maybe many empaths are love the water. So maybe you need to swim in the ocean. Maybe you need to take a bathtub or a shower. Maybe, you need to write in your journal and get all your feelings out, but there's some kind of way that we have to clear. And then we have to also restore our lost energy, because we lose energy. If you're a sponge, you're leaky, and we leak energy a lot as empaths. So then we have to replace our energy. Again, I like this guided meditation where you're breathing light to fill your whole self again, but sunlight is quite good. I feel like, you know, I'll need a little sun.
Yeah.
It's hard in New England in January. There's like an hour of sun here, but
we get plenty of it here. You can come.
Yeah, I know. Bring some to me. Bring some to me. And then, or maybe through food, like I think if we eat very high up the light chain on the food, like if we eat a lot of raw, organic fruits and vegetables, sort of, we can replace our lost energy. Like, so how do we do that? And then how do we shield and protect ourselves? So learning how to make the sponge less spongy. And because I'm an energy healer, I look at things in terms of our energy field. And when if we can learn how to literally change the sponge into something more solid I use, again, a guided meditation of visualizing, like, you know, they say visualize the bubble. That really works. You know, if you can it totally works. If you can put yourself in your bubble, and if you're an empath, you might have to do it 5 times a day.
Yeah.
You know, or before and after difficult things. So like when I find the supermarkets quite difficult for me energetically, giant ones we have here in America, it's so hard. So I have to put my bubble on before I go in, and then I'm good. And then when I come out, I check myself, I release any energy I picked up, I ground myself again, I clear everything out. You know, and it's just become a habit now, like that I don't even.
This is a practice. This is your daily sort of.
Yes, and a few times a day. You know, like if when I'm seeing clients in my office, I do this in between clients. Like I release the energy that I picked up. I clear my room. I clear my space. I reset my shield before the next person comes in. And it's just how we have to go through life, I think.
And with everything that you've just mentioned, is this what you talk about when you say energy management? Are these are the fundamentals?
Yes. Ground, clear, fill, protect. Those are the energy management fundamentals. And there's a lot of different ways to do them all. I just feel like we have to find one that works for us and do it really regularly.
Nice. And do you think everybody has to do this, not just empaths, like any people who are maybe not so empathetic? And
I think it's important. I think the more sensitive you are, the more key it is to do. And very, 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 very sensitive empaths will be almost non-functional until they learn how to do that. You know, they're like the ones with super high anxiety. They can't leave their house. They become a bit, you know, agoraphobic. They you know, have depression and anxiety. The more sensitive you are, the more impactful it is to learn this. And I think it probably benefits everybody, but there's certainly people who have very robust energy fields, very like sort of the warrior types, the fighter types of people. They're very strong, and they, you know, that they can handle, you know, very challenging environments that they don't seem to notice, or it just rolls right off them in a way that doesn't, you know, an empath would be like curled in a ball somewhere, you know, shivering. And the other types are like, whoa, that was, you know, that was invigorating. Like it's I don't think everyone needs it. Yeah.
So for the people that do, and you mentioned a few grounding, the visualizations that you do, are there any other simple things people can do to learn to manage their energy? You mentioned food.
Food, I think, you know,
baths.
Yes. I think, and also nowadays we can really lean into things like essential oils, you know, flower essences. Yeah, I do too. You know, I have certain I love flower essences. So
homeopathic remedies.
Yes, homeopathic remedies. I know. You use sepia, don't you?
Yeah,
and that,
I do.
Yeah. So I still have.
Belladonna is really good for when you're oversensitive to everything.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. So I think I use this Emf Shield. So I have this. It's called a Q-Link. Yeah, it's a Q-Link, and it's designed to, because I think sensitive people are very susceptible to electromagnetic frequency.
I have some under my computer.
Yeah, and we're always like, we have our computer, we have our phones, we are surrounded by EMF all the time, and I think if you're sensitive and you have an EMF sensitivity, it goes right to your immune system. So if you have an autoimmune issue, if you have compromised immune systems, especially anyone with an autoimmune system problems, and empaths often have them, because the outside edge of your energy field corresponds to your immune system. And if you have a spongy, if yours is spongy and porous, if it's been compromised by trauma, it's empaths whose outer edges of their field have been compromised by trauma that have autoimmune issues, and they healing through the trauma, doing these daily practices, and then something like this Q link, like I find this cuts down on empathic static, like, yes, it cuts down on the the actual radiation, electromagnetic frequency radiation, but it also cuts down on the empathic noise that I hear when I'm out in the world. So I've been wearing this for like 10 years. I never take it off. I can't. Wow. It's a really good it's a really good like assist, it's like oh yeah, if I take it off, I feel weird. So I don't like to take it off, but I think there are those kinds of things we can do. And now we can add gemstones, if you like, gemstones, flower essences, essential oils, homeopathy, and to really do a little bit of a study on those to find what works for you. Can also, and I think we still need to have our own practice. And I think nature too is not to be underestimated, the power of being in nature, whether it's sun, air, water, for me, like I can do all the tricks in the world, but an hour of walking my dog by myself in the woods, takes care of everything. And it's just connecting with nature is so powerful.
Totally. And I mean, obviously you do as well. I noticed the shift in my energy almost immediately.
Yes.
It's subtle, but it's it's profound at the same time.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain that. But anyway, so in your book, can people actually learn Reiki through your book?
They can. That my book is Reiki 1 and 2, and it gives really quite enough information, I think, to give you a basic idea. Of course, I do recommend people take a class to study with somebody local, and you still need an attunement. So you can't get an attunement by reading the book.
Maybe you can share a little bit what is an attunement for people that don't know.
Sure. Yeah. The attunement is the process by which the teacher passes the ability to do Reiki to the student, and it's basically an initiation. So the original word in Japanese, reiju, means initiation. So it's how the teacher permanently changes the energy field of the student to allow them to connect specifically to the frequency of Reiki. So Reiki is a very specific frequency. It's the frequency of unconditional love. It has, it's purple, we know that. It's like, and in order to connect to this frequency, you have to open your crown chakra. So the Reiki teacher, master, opens the crown chakra, implants the symbols in there, opens the palm chakras, which on most people are closed, implants the symbols there, and there are many variations on how this can be done. There's a million ways to do it. But that's the fundamental basic part of it, using breath, using intention, to do this initiation that permanently changes the energy field of the student. And then after that, the student will feel heat in their hands, which is one of the coolest things about Reiki. So I think it's so fun for people that are beginners to energy work and this idea even of energy at all, because you do it, you have the attunement, and then all of a sudden your hands get hot. You put your hands on yourself and your hands are hot. You're like, oh my God, I didn't really believe this. You put your hands on your skeptical spouse and your hands are hot. And then they're like, oh my God, your hands are like, it's sort of this undeniable proof literally in the palms of your own hands that something happened and that energy is real and that you can feel it. So it's such a cool moment to see that sort of light bulb go off in people, like, okay, I believe, but now I know that it's real.
So in your book then, so you have the symbols, and can they still be doing Reiki without getting the attunement then, if they don't get the attunement?
I don't think so. I think you really need the attunement. And I do think without the attunement, that especially if you're a healer type, like we've been talking about, you you can have the capacity to transmit energy to other people. This is probably what you did as a massage therapist before you had Reiki. So what happens then is, if you are in a higher vibration than your client and your massage client, you're going to transmit your energy, your personal energy, to your client, and your client's going to feel great and you're going to feel depleted and horrible. And that's kind of it's more of an energy transfer. So it's just natural if you think about frequency and vibration. If you bring a high vibrating object with a lower vibrating object together, the higher vibrating object is going to donate electrons to the lower one until they are now vibrating in harmony and they're the same. Okay. Which is awesome for the person receiving and not so awesome for the person donating. And that's what I think people do. I think, I've worked with a lot of people saying, no, I'm passing energy. Could it be Reiki? And I'm like, it's your own energy. And we don't ever really want to give our own energy. You need all your electrons.
I was going to say, otherwise you'll be depleted always.
Totally. Always. Yeah. And the person in the lower energy field, lower energy state benefits, and the person in the higher, it's terrible for them, So if you think about 20 clients a week, if you're doing massage, no, of course you're going to be tired. It's like giving blood. You don't want to give blood. You only have so much blood. You need to keep your blood for you. And the thing about Reiki is that when we learn Reiki, we stop doing that because it allows us to tap this universal life force energy, which in fact Reiki means universal life force energy. And it's that energy that animates us, that it's our chi, it's the chi of the world, this inexhaustible supply of this universal life force energy. And that's when we learn Reiki, we flow that. So that comes into us and fills us first, and like a pipe, like a conduit, So that fills us, and that as it comes through us, it fills our client. So not only are you not getting drained, but you're also filling yourself first with this divine light, this universal light, and giving what's left over to your client. So I think Reiki just sort of changes that pattern of the energy transfer, so you don't have to do it. It's so amazing. It's such a miracle.
Yeah, it is. And this is actually an important point. This is what I say when I teach, Reiki to my students. If you're feeling depleted, you are giving your energy.
That's right.
You're not giving Reiki. It's not.
Yes, Reiki. That's right.
Yeah. So you mentioned before about a spiritual practice. How important is that for healers, or even just for a normal person who maybe is not doing Reiki but would like to start a spiritual practice?
I think it's essential. Really, really, really important. And I think for everybody. And I absolutely believe that we will come to a stopping point in our spiritual development unless we have a spiritual practice. And I think that psychic work and healing work is a byproduct of spiritual development and personal growth work too. So our goal should be spiritual development. We should be evolving ourselves as a soul. And as we do evolve ourselves as a soul, these gifts are a byproduct of that. And, I don't know if it's really worth pursuing them on their own merits, though many people do. To me, it's really like, yes, if you decide you want to increase your psychic, that's good. But I'd rather see people really invest in their spiritual development, and then the psychic comes as a side effect of that. So I think we
agree with you there. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's really worthy of our time and attention that we need to be developing spiritually. So because I believe that, I think spiritual practice is absolutely vital, and that you are going to eventually stop dead in your tracks of your growth unless you have a strong commitment to a spiritual practice.
Yeah, and I just want to share, like, what's coming up to me now is like that. I would even question their motivation behind developing their psychic abilities, and is it ego based? Is it?
Yeah, a lot of times it is, or power based, or just they're just interested or curious. It's like it's tricky. You gotta kind of, there's some traps in there.
There's a fine line.
Yes, there is, and so, and I think spiritual practice is also, it's an interesting thing. A lot of times when people start looking at it, it's fine to experiment around, to try different things. And it doesn't have to be sitting meditation, although that's what I do. It can be like a body-centered practice, like yoga, tai chi, ideally yoga for 20 minutes meditation for 40 minutes. That's really like yoga was designed to clear our energy meridian so we could sit in meditation, not the other way around, right? You know,
First I've heard say this, but yeah, it's right.
it's true. Like we, you know, and us Westerners, we get it a little backwards, right? So, but that's okay. That's where we begin, and that's fine. I think this is just my opinion and my experience that eventually I think we have to commit to a spiritual practice, and stick with it, even when we don't like it. And that's the difficulty. That's where the growth happens, when you struggle through. And, you know, people who do like the 40-day yoga challenges will have huge breakthroughs because they're committing to this, or a 40-day meditation challenge where it's the days you don't want to do it that you grow and you make yourself do it. Like, it takes discipline, you know, it takes discipline, and we don't grow without discipline. So you can sort of float around in the shallow water for a while, but eventually, in order to go deep, you have to pick something and do it even religiously, even when you don't want to. And that's really where our big spiritual muscles come from.
I like that. It takes discipline. Thank you.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I agree. So do you have any message for aspiring healers out there?
Yeah, I do. And I feel like so many of us are feeling called right now, that there's a big waking up happen, that if you have being a healer as part of your contract here, as part of your mission and what you're supposed to do, you're probably feeling called to it. Like, and the calling is like a spiritual stirring in your heart that's like, I don't know why I have to do this, but it's for me. I know it is. And so many, and if you're feeling the call, I answer the call. Like, you know, do something, get trained in Reiki, like do something, start somewhere, to develop that. And that what's also interesting to me is that as all the healers are getting called, everybody's issues are sort of boiling to the surface too. So my clients, my friends, me, everyone, like you were saying too, this is happening for you and it's happening for me, where our issues are boiling up to sort of popping to the surface. And I think this is an excellent time to do healing work. So I've done it myself. I'm sure you have. I've seen it in my clients, just pop and blow through huge amounts of blocks in a fairly effortless way. Like what would have taken, you know, it might have taken years, like 10 years of therapy or 10 years of work, like back in the day, is now taking a few days or a few weeks. We can just really move a lot of energy right now. And I think it can be quite difficult for people whose pain or trauma or blocks are emerging. You know, if you are finding yourself in that position, get some healing, you know. Make sure that you're, you know, working with somebody to help you to get support, because I know we can't go through this alone. I think we need help, we need support, we need, you know, we can't see what we can't see, and we need help working on our own stuff.
I was going to ask you, what is your heart message to the world? But I think that kind of answered it a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you have any other heart message to the world? Not necessarily healers, but. Well,
I don't know. This is what's coming up as you ask that question, is that I think that empaths are old souls, you know, and that as our souls mature, we become more sensitive, we become more empathic, and that it's wisdom and openness that are the hallmarks of an old soul, of a mature soul. I want to say that to all you sensitives out there, that it feels like a curse, but it's really a sign of spiritual maturity. And as we mature and awaken spiritually, we come more into this universal truth that we're all connected. We're all connected, and empaths are non-violent, non-harmful. We can't create violence in the world, because I know if I hurt me, I'm hurting you. If I hurt you, I'm hurting me. So there's a huge, and you know, like we pick up the fly and carry it outside, you know, like that kind of, we can't tolerate violence or harm. We can't witness it. We can't stomach it. And And so we shouldn't, you know, like that if the whole world was this way, there would be no violence. There would be, you know, we'd be living in this knowingness of the interconnectedness of all beings in all life. And so instead of feeling isolated and tortured, like get some help, get some support, and really see that you as an empath and a sensitive are where humans are evolving to. And that's so important to hold that space of nonviolence and oneness that we're all evolving towards.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for taking your time. I so connect with you with everything that you said. I think we have the same sort of values and understanding and experiences. So thank you so much. I'm going to put the link to your book. Is it on? Can people get it on Amazon? Or?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. You can get it on Amazon, or you can also, if you want to connect with me, find me at my website, lisacampion.com. And I would love to hear from anybody. It'd be great.
Have a Facebook
I have a Facebook. Yeah, Lisa Campion. You can find me on Facebook, and social media, Instagram, all of it. So I would love to connect with you in whatever way you feel it. And you can get my book on Amazon. It'd be great if you feel like you want to do that. And thank you so much for having me on your show, Melanie. It's been a delight to connect with you, to have a heart-to-heart with you.
Thank you. Maybe we can do this again sometime soon.
I hope so. Yeah, thanks.
All right. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye for now.